Why is it that a select few push forward when life throws them hardship, defeat, and isolation, while the majority falter at the first sign of fatigue or after a single failure? These rare individuals rise, quietly, persistently. Most of us chase fast success and recognition, only to lose our sense of self in the process. But the exceptional few, they live by a different code. They don't shout about their achievements. They don't look for applause. They persist in silence, molding their character through consistency, stillness, and an inner calm as resilient as tempered steel. They realize true strength doesn't stem from external forces. It's developed from mastering the inner world. That is the core of Stoicism, a mindset rooted in serenity amidst storms, logic amidst disorder, and stillness amidst striving. This isn't a motivational rush. It's an awakening, an invitation to go inward, where your fears, frailty, and hidden power wait for your attention. In these next 8 chapters, you'll uncover why only a sliver of people are truly unshakable, how they turn hardship into fuel, isolation into resolve, and walk through life with a calm no one can disrupt. The biggest truth is this: you can join them. You weren't required to be born different. You just need the courage to confront yourself, hold your ground, and begin. Because the journey of the 1% doesn't start from privilege. It begins with a choice, a vow. From this moment, I will take command of myself. While many are still scrambling for shortcuts to reach the top, you begin to understand a simple reality. Greatness can't be rushed. It doesn't explode into life. It simmers slowly and steadily, like a flame kindled by worn hands, flickering, fragile, but persistent. The true fire of greatness isn't found in the initial wave of excitement when motivation is fresh. It's the quiet burn that refuses to die out long after the thrill is gone. It's the part of you that needs no praise, no recognition, just the quiet certainty that you are still moving forward. We live in an age addicted to immediacy. People crave results on demand. A flawless body in 30 days, a raise in 6 months, inner peace after a weekend retreat. But this obsession with speed weakens the human spirit. When results take longer than expected, most people quit. Not because they lack talent, but because they lack patience. They forget that real achievement obeys its own pace, like the pine tree that grows only on cliff edges where the wind punishes every branch, like the diamond forged through unimaginable pressure over millennia. If you aim to be in the 1%, you must make peace with progress that's slow but relentless. You must gather the strength to keep advancing when others have stopped. The 1% grasp one fundamental truth. Greatness doesn't erupt. It accumulates. They don't seek to be seen. They build in silence. They understand that every simple act contributes to the bigger picture, rising early, overcoming inertia, turning one more page, or holding your tongue when silence is wiser. Each decision is a building block. You may not see its effect today, but persistence ensures that one day it will be undeniable. This is the essence of the compound effect. Improving by just 1% daily won't change you overnight. But after 1 year, you're not just a little better, you're 38 times stronger. The real question is, can you hold the vision before the results appear? I once knew a woman who dreamed of becoming a writer. For years she sent out manuscripts, each one rejected. Some came back without a reply at all. Others returned with polite refusals that cut deeper than silence. After her 5th failed attempt, she considered quitting. But one morning, she made herself a promise. I'll write 1 page every day, even if no one ever reads it. So she did. Rain or shine, inspired or empty, she wrote. Sometimes what she wrote was terrible. Sometimes she deleted entire days' work, but she never missed a day. 2 years passed. Then one small essay she had written at 2 a.m., the one she almost didn't post, went viral. It wasn't luck. It was momentum meeting persistence. When I asked what finally changed, she smiled and said, "Nothing changed. I just stopped waiting to feel ready." That's the essence of Stoic discipline, acting because it's right, not because it feels easy. You don't show up for applause. You show up because each day you do strengthens the person you're becoming. And every time you act in alignment with your purpose, you build something no failure can take away, your own unbreakable consistency. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Stop debating what a good man should be. Be one, that single line is the compass the 1% carry within." They don't let moods decide their direction. They follow duty. Discipline, to the Stoic mind, is the bridge between the dream and its reality. They don't wait for motivation to strike. They shape habits. They don't rely on bursts of energy. They create rhythm. They don't ask, "Do I feel like it today?" They ask, "What's the right thing to do now?" You've seen these people before. The one lifting weights at dawn, even when it's pouring rain. The one typing away while the world sleeps. The one quietly mastering a language every night, with no audience, no applause. These small actions may seem ordinary, but they form the backbone of the 1% mindset. These individuals don't talk about their discipline, they live it. They don't broadcast their ambition, they act on it. Perhaps you've been there too, starting strong, only to stop when progress seemed invisible. Ask yourself this: did you give your efforts enough time to bear fruit? Or did you keep digging up the seed to check if it had sprouted? If you're still reading, write the word resilience below, not for me, but for yourself. Let it serve as a promise. You'll keep going, quietly, steadily, because the 1% don't win by outpacing the world. They win by never quitting when it gets slow. In a world that glorifies quick fixes and celebrates instant wins, there's only one enduring path that leads anywhere meaningful: discipline. To the ancient Stoics, discipline wasn't about confinement. It was the purest form of liberation. Because once you're no longer ruled by impulses, hesitation, or emotional swings, you gain the power to focus entirely on what truly matters. Most people live by the mood of the moment. They move only when they feel inspired. But inspiration is fleeting. It arrives uninvited and leaves without warning. The 1%, however, operate from a different place. They act from commitment, not emotion. They don't wait for the perfect conditions. They honor their word, even when it feels hard. And each time they do what needs to be done despite resistance, they reinforce the person they are building from within. Discipline is what holds firm when everything else crumbles. It's the invisible line connecting your desire with your action, between what you want and what you do. And if you look closely, that's the exact spot where most people fall. They envision a better life, but can't bear the quiet, repetitive effort it takes to create it. They crave improvement, but the moment hardship strikes, they retreat back to what's familiar. The 1% know something the rest don't. Dreams aren't rewarded by desire, they're rewarded by consistency. And yet, discipline isn't something you're born with. It's crafted in the simplest moments, the ones no one sees. When your alarm rings and you actually rise instead of rolling over. When you sit down to focus, even though you feel mentally drained. When you say no to the easy indulgence and yes to the long-term promise. Discipline isn't born in applause, it's carved out in discomfort. And it's in those small, invisible tests that the strongest parts of you are formed. A friend once told me, "I just can't write unless I feel the spark." I asked him, Would a soldier wait to feel inspired before picking up his weapon? Relying on motivation is risky. It's the most unreliable guide. It shows up when it's convenient and disappears when you need it most. The 1% don't depend on that. They depend on showing up, no matter the weather, no matter the mood. Look around you. How many people crowd gyms in January only to vanish by March? How many start journals, set goals, and abandon them before results even appear? How many swear they'll change, but then hit snooze every morning? It's not weakness, it's misalignment. They haven't yet tasted the power of discipline. Discipline is the silent promise you make to yourself. Every time you honor that promise, you reinforce self-respect. Every time you break it, you chip away at trust in your own word. Each act of follow-through sends a message to your deeper self. I can be counted on. I govern my own life. Over time, those messages stack, and that's how unshakable confidence is built. Not from lofty mantras, but from showing up again and again. There was once a violinist in a small town who wasn't born with natural talent. He didn't have a great ear. His fingers were slow. As a child, he was always last chair in the orchestra. Others picked up melodies easily. He struggled to find the right notes. But he kept practicing. Every morning before school, every night after dinner, scales, repetitions, the same pieces over and over. Years passed. He didn't skip a single day. When others relied on talent, he relied on hours. Decades later, he became a concertmaster, not because he was the most gifted, but because he was the most relentless. Someone once asked him, "What kept you going when you were clearly behind everyone else?" He said, "Because I knew eventually they'd stop. I wouldn't." That's what the disciplined understand. It's not about brilliance. It's about refusing to quit. Freedom isn't about ease. It's about having the strength to do what's needed, even when your mind begs you to stop. So when exhaustion creeps in, don't see it as a reason to pause. See it as a test, a question. Will you continue? When the motivation fades, smile. That's when your discipline is being forged in fire. Push through that moment, and you'll surpass what most never will. The 1% aren't more gifted. They're just more devoted to doing what others refuse. They choose discipline over emotion, consistency over excuse, integrity over appearances, even and especially when no one's watching. It's in that exact moment, when every external light goes dim, when the noise of the world fades, that the strongest individuals step into their own inner chamber. This dark room isn't made of walls or shadows. It's a quiet mental space where you're finally face to face with yourself. No applause, no validation, no eyes upon you. Just you, your flaws, and a single question echoing in the silence. Will you keep going when no one sees your effort? The 1% understand something essential. Recognition doesn't shape greatness. It's sculpted in the unseen hours. The hours when you're unknown, uncelebrated, and alone with your will. Like seeds that must decay underground before breaking through to sunlight, they know that growth is invisible before it becomes undeniable. In silence, failure transforms from something shameful into something refining. Every moment in solitude becomes an invitation to hear what you've been avoiding. The Stoics had a name for this state, ataraxia, a peaceful stillness even amidst chaos. When you learn to remain unmoved in a noisy world, steady despite shifting tides, you don't just grow stronger, you become free. Seneca wrote, "Fire proves gold, adversity reveals the strong, and the 1% live this truth." Once you've learned how to endure your own refining flame, no outside force can extinguish your spirit. Why is this dark room so vital? Because society only sees the final result, never the struggle. People admire success and call it luck, But they never witnessed the sleepless nights, the quiet breakdowns, or the moments where you nearly gave up but didn't. In a world desperate for visibility, the ability to remain unseen becomes power. You don't need to prove your effort to the world. You only need to prove to yourself that you're still standing. So how do you enter your own darkroom? Start with the little moments. When you choose to read instead of scrolling mindlessly, you've stepped into it. When you train, even when no one will ever notice, you're already there. When you take a deep breath instead of reacting to insult, you're building inner strength. Make a practice of carving out silence. Just 15 minutes a day to sit still, observe your thoughts, feel your emotions, and ask yourself honestly, what did I do today that made me better than yesterday? That isn't self-help fluff. That's mental conditioning. I once had a friend who built an entire company without telling anyone. For 3 years, there were no social media updates, no hype, just quiet work. When he finally launched, everyone called it an overnight success. But it wasn't. It was the result of thousands of quiet hours inside his own dark room. He told me, I never needed the world to notice. I just needed to know I never stopped. You're no different. Sometimes what you're searching for isn't new advice or external approval. It's your own voice beneath all the noise. Ask yourself, are you willing to stay in the darkness long enough to find the light inside you? Or do you only want the kind of light that burns fast and fades quicker? True strength doesn't come from being visible. It comes from showing up when no one is watching. Because those who can endure the unseen are the only ones strong enough to walk into the light and not be blinded by it. And if you're still here, still reading, you've made it halfway. That means something inside you refuses to give up. Save this message. Let it be a reminder. Darkness is not your enemy. It's your training ground. And if you're ready for what comes next, the light will begin to rise, but only for those who have endured the night. What separates the 1% from the rest isn't some secret talent or special privilege. It's that they've found their reason. They don't get pulled in by noise or follow the crowd. They move to the rhythm of something deeper, a personal mission. While most people ask, what should I do to be successful? The 1% ask, why does this truly matter to me? It's a question many never take the time to answer. In their rush to achieve, they skip over the foundation. Without that clarity, they drift, losing focus, losing motivation, and eventually losing belief in their own path. A goal without meaning is like a ship without direction. It might move, but it won't arrive. Vision is more than an objective. It's a lighthouse that cuts through confusion and keeps you grounded when everything else becomes uncertain. Once you discover your reason, you become unstoppable. Not because life gets easier, but because setbacks lose their power. People with purpose don't ask, why is this happening to me? They ask, what is this moment trying to show me? They see obstacles as questions, not barriers. Life is simply asking, how much do you want this? The Stoics call this living according to nature, aligning your actions with your higher self. When your purpose becomes bigger than comfort or ego, fear starts to loosen its grip. Every challenge turns into a tool for transformation. Just like a blacksmith doesn't fear the forge, those with vision don't fear pressure. They understand it's part of the process. I once had a friend who never stopped working, hustling every day to build something better for himself. But when I asked what better really meant to him, he paused. No answer came. Every time life knocked him down, he broke, not because of the failure, but because he had nothing deeper to hold on to. Then one night, at his lowest point, he asked himself, why am I doing any of this? And the answer hit him hard. He just wanted to give his mother peace, a life free from the burden she carried for decades. From that day on, he didn't need motivation anymore. His reason carried him. The work remained difficult, the setbacks still came, but everything felt different, because now it mattered. And strangely, the moment he stopped chasing recognition, it began to find him, quietly, gradually, as if life rewards the person who stops living for applause and starts living with intent. Look at those who've made lasting impact. They weren't driven solely by success. They were guided by purpose, by the desire to leave something meaningful behind. The 1% don't just think of personal gain. They think legacy. They realize that the person you choose to be today is the architect of the future you'll live in. Every action is a stone in the foundation of your life. And if you're feeling lost, don't panic. Start again with a single question. Why? Write it. Repeat it. Let it become your compass. Because once you're clear on your reason, the actions and methods will reveal themselves. You'll stop waiting for energy. You'll move with conviction. The 1% don't need external cheerleaders. Their purpose is the engine that never stalls. They don't need to be seen. They need to stay aligned. They don't rely on fleeting emotion. They build from the ground up. And they know the greatest quests always begin in silence, far from crowds. So ask yourself, what are you really living for? If you don't yet know, keep digging. Because when that answer finally rises from within, the world will see you differently. You'll stop being part of the noise, and you'll start walking among the 1%. Life doesn't show mercy to those without direction. It won't pause because you're tired. It won't soften just because you're overwhelmed. The 1% understand this harsh truth. They weren't born unbreakable. They became unshakable through every blow that didn't stop them. To them, pain isn't an enemy. It's the most honest teacher they've ever had. Most people turn away from pain. The 1% walk straight into it. They know that the wound itself isn't what weakens us. It's the refusal to confront it that does. They don't bury the memories of failure, betrayal, or heartache. They sit with them, face them, and ask, what is this here to teach me? In that moment, suffering shifts. It stops being a weight and starts becoming fuel. The Stoics called this amor fati, the love of fate. Not just acceptance, but appreciation for everything that happens, even the hard things, especially the hard things. Because only by embracing the darkness can you learn to walk through it with light. Have you ever felt like you hit the bottom? That place where the world feels numb, where nothing makes sense. Love lost, hopes crushed, direction gone. You sit in the quiet and wonder if anything of you is left. But here's the truth. That's not the end. That's the starting point. When everything falls apart, there's nowhere left to go but upward. Marcus Aurelius once said, "A fire turns everything thrown into it, into light and heat. The more the flame is challenged, the brighter it glows. So it is with you. Your mind, when trained well, doesn't collapse under stress. It transforms it into strength." I once met a woman who had spent her life dancing. It was her purpose, her passion. Then an accident took her ability to move. For almost a year, she lived in the shadow of grief. But one day she stood up and said, "If I can't dance, I'll teach others how to feel music in their soul." 10 years later, she became a mentor to thousands. Not for what she regained, but for what she gave. She didn't get her legs back. She found something greater, her mission. That's what the 1% do. They don't ask for life to be fair. They turn the unfair into firewood. They don't curse the challenge. They learn how to use it. This idea isn't poetic optimism. It's reality. Every meaningful door in life is guarded by pain. Avoid it, and you stay locked out. Go through it, and everything changes. The 1% aren't immune to setbacks. They just respond differently. When life strikes, they don't collapse into "why me?" They rise into "how can I use this?" Here's a truth most avoid. Pain will find you. That part is inevitable. But suffering, letting it paralyze you, that part is optional. Once you've trained yourself to remain steady inside the storm, you stop fearing the wind. You become the storm. Every fall becomes a rebirth. Every heartbreak becomes a lesson in self-loyalty. Every loss deepens your gratitude for what remains. And if you're still reading this, chances are you're facing something hard right now. Maybe the world around you feels chaotic. Maybe your heart is heavy. That's okay. It means you're still alive, still trying, still here. And that matters. Never forget. The pain you carry today could become the power you stand on tomorrow. And if something in these words stirred even the smallest ember in you, pass it on. Someone out there is walking through the same storm you survived. One quiet gesture might help them rise. Because no challenge can truly stop you as long as you choose to keep walking. Life isn't punishing you. It's asking one thing. Are you ready? Ready to walk the long, unseen path, the one only the 1% are brave enough to finish? Have you ever felt like you're existing rather than truly living? Each morning you vow to start fresh, to change. Yet somehow you find yourself buried under the same blanket, repeating the same habits. You long for focus, yet your surroundings are filled with distractions. You crave peace, but your space hums with chaos, buzzing phones, endless noise, scattered thoughts. You blame weak willpower. But willpower isn't the root of the problem. The real issue lies in your design. Most people don't fail because they lack desire. They fail because their environment is built to sabotage their goals. The 1% know what the rest overlook. Behavior isn't shaped by emotion. It's shaped by structure. You won't write if your desk is cluttered. You won't train if your gear is buried in the back of the closet. You won't think clearly if your space breeds noise and disorder. The 1% don't wait for good habits to magically appear. They build spaces that support them. A friend of mine used to live by the phrase, "I'll start tomorrow." He said it so often it became a joke. Then one day he moved into a bare room. No distractions, no screen, no luxury. Just a desk, a few books, and a note on the wall that read, "What did I improve today?" 1 month later, he was a different man. Not because of some life-changing event, but because he removed what held him back. He told me, "When I cleaned my room, I cleared my mind." This is what the Stoics understood deeply. They never chased joy for its own sake. They pursued alignment between thought and action, intention and outcome. They believed that living well meant building order. And order begins with routine. Habits aren't cages. They're the walls that shelter you from mental chaos. People think freedom means doing whatever they want, but that's an illusion. True freedom means doing what is right, even when it's hard. The 1% live with that freedom, because they've trained their minds to obey purpose, not mood. And you can begin too. Start small. Each night, spend 10 quiet minutes reflecting. Ask yourself, what did I handle well today? What could I do better tomorrow? You don't need long essays, just honesty. In that silence, your scattered thoughts start to become clear truths. In those small reflections, discipline is born. There's a passage in Proverbs that says, "As a man thinks in his heart, so is he." Your mind writes the story of your life. If your thoughts are disorderly, your days will be too. But if your mind is trained, your reality will reflect that order. And if you build the habit of reflection, if you stop, observe, and recalibrate, you begin reshaping your entire world from within. It's time to be honest. You may not control everything outside you, but you absolutely control what you allow in your space. You can't demand discipline from yourself if your surroundings are built for comfort and delay. You can't expect to hear your inner wisdom if you never give it a moment of quiet. Change doesn't arrive in big dramatic moments. It arrives in quiet systems built brick by brick. So ask yourself, are you living in an environment that supports your goals, or one that quietly keeps you from them? That answer might sting, but it might also set you free. The 1% don't wait for permission. They create systems that move them forward, starting with their own minds and spaces. And so can you, right now, not tomorrow, not when life is less busy. In the room you're in, with what you already have. Freedom doesn't come from escaping life. It comes from mastering the world you carry inside. This is the moment where most people freeze, standing at the crossroads between becoming more and the fear of being seen trying. You want to improve, but that whisper in your head says, "What if I fail?" Or worse, "What if they see me fail?" You crave a fresh start, but you hesitate, not because you lack desire, but because you've been tricked into believing you must be perfect before you even begin. That belief? It's the most seductive lie your mind can tell. Perfection isn't a goal, it's a trap. It keeps you stalled, worried about appearances, afraid to look foolish, terrified to get anything wrong. The pursuit of perfection is really just fear in disguise. Meanwhile, growth lives on the other side, messy, raw, real. It requires you to enter the arena, knowing you'll fall, knowing you'll stumble, and still walking in. The 1% understand this truth. Fear loses power the moment you act. They choose movement, not mastery. Progress, not polish. The Stoics said it plainly, better to move imperfectly than to stand still in hesitation. Because if you wait for everything to align before starting, you'll wait forever. Look deeper. You're not truly afraid of failing. You're afraid of being watched as you fail. You're not scared of getting it wrong. You fear being judged for it. You're not paralyzed by beginning. You're paralyzed by the thought that no one will applaud your effort. So you stay where it feels safe, untouched, unnoticed, and unchallenged. It feels calm, but it's not peace. It's a silent prison built out of fear. The 1% break out of that prison. They don't need perfection, they need purpose. They accept the awkward first steps, the unsure voice, the raised eyebrows, because they know something most people never learn. When compared to forward motion, fear always loses. I once knew a man who gave up his dream of starting a business. He thought he wasn't ready. Years passed, and what haunted him wasn't that he had tried and failed. It was that he never even started. He told me, if I had just begun, maybe I would have failed. But at least I'd know who I was becoming. That's the heart of the Stoic journey. Growth isn't about checking boxes. It's about owning your choices. The Stoics called this autarkia, self-reliance. The point where you stop blaming the world, stop waiting for things to change, and start claiming full responsibility for your path. Every mistake becomes a lesson. Every small action becomes proof that you're moving. And each time you confront your reflection with honesty, you take a step closer to the kind of strength no one can take from you. The 1% don't try to look perfect. They try to be whole. They grow quietly. When no one's looking, when it's uncomfortable, when it's lonely. And the only thing that sets them apart is they never stop. They understand that within today's flaws lie the seeds of tomorrow's greatness. So ask yourself honestly, would you rather be admired for an image that isn't real, or respected for the courage to show up as you are and keep walking? Because the world doesn't need more polished facades. It needs people brave enough to take action while unsure, to stand while trembling, to move forward even while falling short. And it's in that moment, when you stop demanding perfection and start walking anyway, that you step into the 1%. Not because you're better, but because you chose to grow when fear said stay. In the end, this path isn't about beating others, it's about reclaiming yourself. The 1% don't possess magic, they've just made consistency a way of life. They don't avoid pain, they learn to walk with it. They don't wish for ease, they train themselves for the storm. Step by step they rise, not loudly but steadily, until one day they look in the mirror and realize their greatest triumph wasn't over the world, it was over their own mind. So if you're still searching for your path, remember this: you don't need to be perfect to begin. You just need the courage to start, shaky, unsure, even afraid. Because as long as you're moving, you're transforming. That is the core of Stoicism. Think clearly, act boldly, and remain steady no matter what comes. And if something in these words lit a spark inside you, however faint, don't let it flicker out. Let this be the place where you feed that flame, where you practice stillness, where you walk with intention, where you build a life that matters, starting today, starting with you.